And since we're live 7 nights a week, if you miss it while the show is live, you can always watch it in the morning. 'Cause all of the stuff is archived. This is going to be like the largest archive of information that is not just financially tuned, but it does have a core theme of whatever we talk about directly impacts your ability to make and save money. So, and it also interferes with your ability to invest money. So, if you're not making enough money, we're going to fix that. If you're not saving enough money, we're going to fix that. And if you're not investing enough money, we're going to fix that too. Right? The ultimate goal by the end of the day is if you find your 20-year plan, and your 20-year plan is where do you want to be at in 20 years, and then what does it take to get there? Reverse engineer that plan. You have a blueprint. Step one, do the free, easy stuff. Step two, do the free, hard stuff. Step three, do the cheap, easy stuff. And then step four, do the expensive, easy stuff. Then step five, do the expensive, hard stuff. So you want to get through the easy stuff that costs you little to no money. Then you want to get through the easy stuff that costs you little to no money. Then you want to start getting into the hard stuff that costs money, right? He said, he said, I'm not fixing nothing. It's your problems. Keep it. Well, Michael, you verified on the show plenty of times before that there are certain things that I talked about that you didn't even think about it until I mentioned it, and it benefited your at least your palette of knowledge, if nothing else. But just being able to shimmy to the left instead of shimmying to the right gives you the capabilities to be more successful. So, am I here to be a free therapist for all of the chaos in life? You might think so on Sunday, but that is not what I'm about. Truth is, on Sunday, I really just point out the fact that a lot of people's complaints are one sided positions where they're not interested in communicating with their partner, but they want change and they're not willing to put in the effort. They feel like they've done enough, even if they haven't done enough, and they're expecting the other person to cover the spread without them properly communicating to the other person why they're not satisfied. The other reasons why I discuss this is because deciding that no matter how many months and years that you were involved in this relationship that now you want to change. That's when he said, "Yeah, I'm smarter coming here." But that's the thing. It's like the one of the things that I talk to other people about is like, look, as soon as you decide that you want out of that relationship, no matter how many months you've been there, no matter how many years you've been there, even if y'all have a adult agreement that we're going to separate and have an adult agreement that we're going to split the stuff. Some things you want, some things I don't care if you have it, some things I want, and those things you don't care that I have it, and we just do a split. The fact is that if all of our money went towards the lifestyle creep that we funded together, the problem that we have now is that we went from the comfortable lifestyle that we had together to struggling to maintain that same lifestyle separately. And if it took two incomes to have that lifestyle together, it's going to take two jobs from one person to cover that same lifestyle alone. And that is a financial impact that you don't need to go through if all you did was just fix your fuck up in your relationship by talking to your partner. So that's why we cover that shit on Sunday. Because a lot of times, all it takes is not just to apologize to the other person, but just simply do better. We don't talk about religion a lot of times on the show, but the whole idea of repentance is recognizing that you yourself have fucked up and you will not continue to deliberately fuck up going forward. That is why I tell y'all first person accountability. Because going to the church on Sunday and having that sip of wine and eating that Ritz cracker does not absolve you of all the negative behavior that you performed in the last 7 days. While they swear that that's going to save your soul, the same scripture indicates that if you did not know what you were doing was wrong, or if you were helpless and could not impact the situation. Those are the people that he said forgive them for they not know what they're doing. But if you know that being an OnlyFans girl is wrong, he ain't saving you. His blood wasn't spilt for doing deliberate negative action. His blood wasn't spilt for the individual people who are deliberately breaking laws and committing crimes, committing sins. It's the people who are indulging in greed and sin and lust. That there's no saving those individuals from just saying, "Oops, my bad" on Sunday and then dropping it like it's hot the following Friday. That's not what it's about. So while we don't sit here and go through the scripture on a regular basis, at the end of the day, it does have a little bit of an impact on you because you have to recognize that in order for you to truly atone for any negative behaviors that you did wrong in the past, I'm sorry, might not fix everything, but not doing it anymore and deliberately changing your behavior patterns to do better, that will fix your situation. Michael said, FYI, Florida sells the most Depends diapers, followed by Arizona, then California, and Texas. Now, he said, Michael did tell y'all for the last 3 months to invest in stocks related to Depends diapers. If y'all don't know, while Asia is having a birth crisis over there because they have a large age gap between their elderly and their youth, America is getting older, and the largest majority of adults over the age of 40 and children under the age of 10 that wear diapers. It is a pretty expanding market because more and more adults are starting to get to the age of 90, and more adults can't wait till they get to the bathroom at 72. And whether they're wearing those adult diapers to bed or they're wearing those adult diapers throughout the day, and then irritable bowel syndrome that's coming up from the acute anxiety and hypervigilance of a stressed out society is 35, you could be using the bathroom on yourself on a job because you're too stressed out on your job and you can't make it to the bathroom on time, too far away. So Michael's telling you invest in adult diapers. Y'all got to understand, they're the adult diapers end where the tampons leave off. Y'all gotta look. Y'all gotta look. It's out there now. It's out there. He said more adult diapers are sold than kids diapers. Yes, that's because the kids are only in need of diapers from one to like potty training age, close to 5 years old. But adults need diapers from that health issue, whether they require a catheter or they start having health issues from injuries or whatever until they can't control their bowels for the rest of their life. And they're going to need diapers a whole lot longer than kids. Adults are going to need diapers for 20 or 30 years. Kids only need diapers for the first five. So it's a good investment opportunity. And somebody, this is one of those unorthodox financial topics that we don't discuss everywhere else in the world, but we talk about it on this show because it impacts your ability to make you some money. Well, you don't die in diapers actually. You're born into a diaper, and a lot of the times, if you live long enough, you live in diapers. And if you're caught with a diaper on, you might die in a diaper. But not all the times do they die in diapers. 50 years and older, I thought it was like 40 to 45. I didn't look at the statistic yet, but I thought that it was 40 to 45 when you started having irritable bowel syndrome starts triggering people between 35 and 45 years old with stress and anxiety. And I assumed that in that area, you started experiencing the need for diapers, even though you don't do it. Women don't have the adult diapers as early on as men do because women have the tampons with the pads and everything. So they are used to bodily fluids in their shorts throughout their life. But after a certain period of time where it just does it's not enough, then they start ending up with the those special underwear that they wear that we call bloomers. And then it just kind of trickles into the adult diapers. But yeah, around the ages of 50 years old. So, with that being said, that's one of the reasons why we cover so many different topics on the show to help you guys make better decisions and help you guys improve yourselves. So, feel free to dive into the comment section, whether you're on Twitter or Twitch or YouTube Shorts or YouTube long forms, and put your positive comments in there. And also make sure that you take the opportunity to mash those reaction buttons. And you'll see your comments. You'll see them down here on the 9 by 16, and you'll see them at the top for the 16 by 9, or vice versa. 16 by 9 is at the top for the vertical form, and for the 9 by 16 is at the bottom. Now, let's go ahead because I know a lot of y'all were popping in because we were supposed to be talking about Turkey, and we're not actually talking about the Turkey. We're talking about the country Turkey. So, in the West, if you're a man earning 40 or $50,000 a year, you're often made to feel like your ambitions are a joke, right? Think about it. You're told to be happy with your cubicle, accept that you'll never own a house, and that starting a family is a luxury that you just simply can't afford. You're on a fast track to a life of quiet mediocrity, a cog in the wheel of a machine that can't care less if you get ahead or not. Now, in Turkey, that same man with the exact same income can be building a real future. Special shout out to Nicole, Detroit, Michigan, in the house. I don't know about y'all, but we got thunder and lightning. It was raining sideways up until the show started. It's almost like God wanted to watch the podcast because He made the rain stop. um, Now, this is not an exaggeration. It's a mathematical and cultural reality. So, for a fraction of what it costs to just survive in America, Turkey offers a powerful combination: a ridiculously low cost of living, a wide open field of accessible business opportunities, and a traditional family first culture. Now, this isn't just another travel show. Gotta tell y'all, we talk about all kind of stuff. One time we was covering one country, then we ended up talking about because Dylan was here. Special shout out to Dylan. Dylan's been killing it with driving so far. And We were talking about plastic gasoline. At we were covering one of these countries. Found out that it could be made out of a plant that actually creates rubber. I was like, what? Plants that make rubber? I didn't even think about that. And plastic gasoline actually gives you it's more eco-friendly than the fossil fuels that we have now, but it costs way more to get, and it's only located in very few places. But I was like, shoot, if I could fit two of them 20-gallon gas cans into my car, I could see myself driving to that place and picking up a few of them. Like I said, I'm staying away from Turkey. It's borders Iran. Look, now I don't think about stuff like that when I covered it because you got to understand. I selected this topic 2 or 3 weeks ago. This particular country, I was not prepared for Donald Trump to start sprinkling f bombs all over Iran, which turned into an international problem where Great Britain learned how to use TikTok in order to talk about how Donald Trump is sprinkling F bombs all over Iran. I wasn't prepared for that. So when I decided to cover the topic, I was like, okay, this is a good country to live in. I think I've covered Iran at least once. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. If I tell you about the show, if I tell you about that country today on the show, it's not like you're going to go there tomorrow knowing that you're playing you might be flying Spirit and not make it there because you got broadsided by a B-12 bomber or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm not expecting that. But if I told you that Turkey can potentially provide you with a cheaper standard of living, with a better atmosphere than the one that you experience in Georgia or Florida or Texas or Chicago, right? And you decide, you know what, I'm going to work on getting there. Trump is only going to be in office for 2 more years. If it take you 3 years to get your money right to go to Turkey, then you can find yourself still going to Turkey after the nukes have subsided and the radiation has stopped uh, uh, simmering across the world, and then still go over there and have you a good time. However, on the other hand, though, he said, I understand. No, I know you understand, but on the other hand, though, if you know that your $100,000 a year income in Sacramento, California is not enough money for the standard of living that you're trying to pay for. And you know that not only you can go to some areas in Central America and live a cheaper lifestyle for less money and still be satisfied, you also can find yourself going to a different country and seeing yourself in um cheaper countries that have the same lifestyle or better, right? So you'll need to update your booster shots for sand fleas. Well, okay, you if you don't have your COVID shots when you start traveling to other countries, you're gonna find yourself having to have a quarantine scenario before you can start hanging out. So if you're one of those people that says F COVID shots, your travel is not going to be, oh, I'm gonna spend 3 weeks in such and such country. It's gonna have to be like 3 months because the first 2 weeks you're on lockdown. Like you're not going too many places, especially if you're traveling with a service animal. You're not going too many places. But also you do like you're like Michael is correct. Before you leave your native territory, you want to take the time to communicate with whatever embassy that's out there, and then you want to find out from those countries what type of immunization, that's a tongue twister to say, immunizations that you need before you go out there. And it's going to have to be the whatever shots that you got to take within 3 months of you hopping on a plane and flying over there. So you can't get the shots in 2026 and then fly out in 2028. If you're going to get vaccinations of any kind before your flight, if you plan on flying out in December, you need to schedule to get those shots in September or October, closer to November. That way, when you fly out, your shots just happened recently in the last quarter, in the last 3 months, right? But when I was covering this time, like, and you're right, like I just realized that, oh yeah, because I'm looking at some World War II, like 1942 videos where on TikTok you've got right now U.S. troops that are airplanes being blown out of the sky right now over there in Iran, and I tell everybody, hey, if you did not invest in your Second Amendment before last week, you need to take a little bit of money out of your pocket, $500 to $1,500, and go and grab you a couple of full size, a couple of compacts, maybe a bull pump or an assault of some kind, pay the tax stamp, and then maybe another $900 worth of ammunition for it, and kind of just keep it close because while we are over there starting stuff, the one thing that we have gotten comfortable with as American citizens is that nobody has yet to have brought that shit over here. But if it happens, when it happens, any border that is not covered by Canada is likely to be overrun, and any city or state near that advancement is likely going to have to provide additional support to whatever National Guard and military that we have. We act ass with ICE agents, but really and truly, the 200 and 300,000 Americans that are protesting against the ICE agents are supposed to be helping the ICE agents find the people who don't belong here, because those are the same people who could take up assault rifles and attack everybody else in the vicinity, right? If we work together, but that requires us to have more knowledge about it. So you got to get it. You got to get yours, learn how to use it, teach your kids how to use it so that you can be ready for what happens. If you can read my podcast from a couple of months ago, what was it, like 4 months ago, when I told you guys to invest in the military stocks? I said invest in law enforcement, cybersecurity, and military stocks and private prisons. There's money in this. It's not as high as the real estate investment trust. The real estate investment trusts are pushing 19% right now, but the rest of those other industries that actually would qualify by the dividend modifications would definitely cover those. He said also familiarize yourself with country rules, laws, and etiquettes. Now, I have never thought about this, but I have discussed how it is important to pay attention to proper etiquette, but paying attention to the laws that are related to proper etiquette is more important than just social etiquette because there are certain things that you can do in America, like making out in the street, that you can't do in certain countries in Asia, and that'll put you in jail. There are certain things, public displays of affection, not readily acceptable. In certain areas of Asia, asking a girl out could be misrepresented as a sexual advance and could be responded to with sexual advance charges. And you don't really want to put yourself in a compromising position specifically because you were too friendly. Then Camilla Harris isn't here. She went and grabbed all them pot smokers that got picked up in Russia. They ain't going over there to go get you right now. Trump is going to be like, shit, you did it. You better get yourself out of it like I did. So, yes, you do need to familiarize yourself with the country you're planning on going to. You should familiarize yourself with the majority of the rules that would directly impact your touchdown. And then find a way to translate whatever laws that are related to the things that you're about to do before you do it. In Asia, you can't eat while traveling. In America, we eating and drinking in the car, we eating and drinking on the bus, on the train, on the plane. We order food to go and we eat and drink everywhere. But in Asia, if you're eating in public, you might get arrested for that. You need to sit your ass down and eat here, and then let's commute, or hold the food till you get home and then let's commute. But one of the things I can tell you before you start panicking, Mama always said, when in Rome, do what the Romans do. If ain't nobody else walking while eating, don't walk while eating. Ain't nobody else holding hands, don't hold hands. Ain't nobody else making out in the street, don't make out in the street. Ain't nobody else crossing this road, even though the light says go, don't cross the road. As you keep yourself out of trouble because the locals know what the rules are. So like we jaywalk in America, in other countries, jaywalking might put your ass right in jail soon as you get out the airport. So you follow the crowd, do what the crowd do. Michael said, "What ICE agents? We're on a news story. Yeah, we are on a news story. Helps to know what side of the road to drive on. Oh no, oh no, I'm not driving in another country. No, no. Okay, so here's the mentality. While we're going to be talking about all the awesome things about going to Turkey, I've reached that age, Michael. Um, I understand that young folks feel entitled to ride shotgun in a car, and young folks feel like they're an adult when they get to drive that motherfucker. But royalty rides in the back. The help drives the vehicle. The mindset of a millionaire is to not drive himself anywhere. Let someone else drive while I'm on the phone trying to make money on the go. Emails, text messages, phone calls, because I am not responsible for where this car is going. I'm going to tell you to take us where we need to go, and then you're going to get me there on time. So, if I'm going to go to another country that's likely cheaper than America, my budget should include a chauffeur and a housekeeper. And if that chauffeur and that housekeeper turns out to be the wife, fantastic. So some of the things I'm going to be asking on the first date is, do you have a valid driver's license and how many tickets have you gotten? Do you know how to cook and clean and organize stuff so that I don't have to do it? And if those answers are yes, then you're likely to qualify, right? Some women like, shit, I don't care. Because if you were saying, well, he got to make 100,000 a year and then every man that wants to talk to you is going to make sure that they make 200,000 a year so that they definitely qualify. Then at the end of the day, why can't you meet my expectations too? Why am I driving Miss Daisy? I didn't earn my right. I done made my 100,000 a year lifestyle. I should be able to get driven around. Shit. And if I'm doing 100,000 a year in America and I take that shit to Asia, where 30,000 a year is enough, I'm making 3.5 times the required average to be enough. It's like shit. I could put a little extra down for a chauffeur. If the lifestyle is covered in $1,500, how does it hurt me to put $500 on a guaranteed chauffeur? That's $2,000 a month, and I don't got to drive nowhere. I told y'all this wasn't just a travel video. This is a blueprint for men who refuse to be priced out of a meaningful life, for men who want to build something real on a modest income, and for the women that want to find good men who's willing to do that, because y'all can go there as a couple. Y'all don't have to go to another country and marry a foreigner. Y'all can get married here in America and y'all can just move to another country and retire together and be like, fuck all this shit. Not because we don't like America, but because it's cheaper. It's cheaper, right? Not to mention, you want to do it as an American citizen. And the reason why you want to do it as an American citizen, because a few years ago, Asia had passed this thing to increase tourism. That if you're traveling on a US visa when you get over there, you can get free flights to different areas while you're over there. So while it might cost you an arm, leg, and an eye to get there from America, it's going to be little or nothing to go from country to country while you're over there. It's like U.S. passport. I'm going to China. U.S. passport. I'm going. I'm going to Japan. U.S. passport. I'm going to South Korea. No cost for the flight in some of these situations. What? I don't have to spend extra money. It's like it's almost like shit. Instead of spending $300 to get a cab over there, I'll catch a plane for free and get there faster. Understand the dynamic and logic of how do you benefit yourself. So even when I tell you guys about the dual passport scenario, the dual citizenships where you can get citizenship and passports from multiple different countries just by meeting the qualifications of those countries. If you keep your citizenship, when your citizenship benefits you from America, you can wave that shit around and save you some fucking money. Just don't wave that bitch around in North Korea. Either right now you can fly for free, but yeah, you can fly for free in the United States. Through well, no, you can't fly for free in the United. You got to pay for every flight in the United States, but you can fly for free in certain places. Yes, right now in Asia, if you go there as an American citizen, excuse me, incentivizing international travel, U.S. passports can get free flights to certain countries in Asia while they're traveling around Asia. So that's not going to give you a free flight back to America. But if you're flying from America to Singapore and then from Singapore to Istanbul and then Vietnam, Japan, Shanghai, all of this stuff, some of them flights will end up being free because you're going to waive your U.S. passport in front of customs, which helps because when you're trying to remember when we were he said anyone going to Iran? Hell no. Shouldn't go to Iran. But just to avoid the smoke. Hell no, I shouldn't be going to Iran. I'm glad I covered Iran. I think I believe I covered Iran on the podcast already. I'm glad I covered Iran already. Iran and India. But if we go to Iran, it's going to be like 3 years from now when the radiation settles. You know what I mean? But this is why we go through all of these discussions so that we can pick and choose where we want to go. Because here's the other thing though, because when we got the passport bros that are traveling the world trying to find um, family oriented wives and a cheaper way to live, women are traveling the world too, trying to find a different kind of man than what's in America. I don't know what they're looking for, so I'm not going to speculate for them. But what I can tell you is that if they're going to certain countries that have family oriented men, they're going to be expecting a family oriented woman, and an alpha boss lady that wants to lead the household. She may not find what she's looking for in certain countries, which, like, for example, Switzerland, good for an American woman. India, not good for an American woman. Both places are good for a dude, but certain countries just not designed for the female mindset. Uh, Belize and Belarus, perfect for an American woman. Bangladesh, almost 80 or 90% of the workforce is black business owners that are women. Perfect for you to go over there and blend in with the crowd and start up a business and marry a local who would be a stay-at-home husband because that's the culture over there, right? So it depends on what you're looking for and where you're looking for it at. And that's why we cover all of these different areas. It's just inconvenient that Turkey is so close that all it takes is a downward draft of a fumble from the Cowboys during a game, and then all of a sudden there's a nuke in the middle of Turkey. But that the tax season should end before the military excursion destroys Turkey, right? They should wrap things up by, I want to say, April or May. I doubt that they're going to continue to blow up Iran through the summer. I'm if it lasts past spring break, that's kind of like the bulk of it because they just started, right? I give them 90 days of conflict, but after that, I strongly believe that they're gonna kind of settle down. Okay, because they got caught off guard and America's already over there. So all it takes now is an onslaught for like 3 weeks, and then and Trump's like, we're not gonna rebuild. So whatever y'all lost over there is gonna stay gone. Yep, they'll be home by they should be home by Cinco de Mayo. They should, but if they don't come by Cinco de Mayo, at least the black folks will be back by Juneteenth. Because Americans love holidays. So for the next half hour or more, we're going to break down the blueprint. We're not going to give you hypotheticals. No travel vlogger fantasies. This isn't going to be fictitious scenarios. We're going to be talking about hard numbers and practical strategies and cultural truths for 2026 going forward. We're going to get into the real cost of living city by city in certain areas of Turkey, and we're going to explore low capital businesses and investments that are wide open for foreigners, especially some that are low income individuals. He said, black folks don't do snow. You got some cities and states in America that got black folks in them and snow at the same time. But one thing I noticed when it was snowing, ain't nobody was outside. Everybody was inside. I was surprised because the only two black folks outside was me and the dog. And we were looking at one another like it's a ghost town out here. Where the fuck is everybody? Like, ain't no snowball fights, ain't no cars sliding into one another because they can't stop. Everybody was inside, like, fuck it, we're gonna wait till snow clears. If you seen anybody outside when the snow hit the ground, there was three people out there. And y'all need to start tipping these motherfuckers. Walmart.com, Uber, not Uber, UPS, and FedEx. Them were the three motherfuckers that was out there. Your packages came out when your mail didn't. And your groceries from the Walmart showed up so that you didn't have to go to the grocery store. That was it. You know what I mean? Everything else was damn near shut down. Mechanic shops were down, everything. The gas stations the pumps were still working, but nobody was there. The pumps are automatic. Charge your credit card, pay at the pump. So if you only had cash that day, you were asked out. And it was like what 14 days of the whole area was closed. I was like, God damn. I wonder if the kids went to school. There wasn't no school buses that I could see. Right now, we're going to talk about the cultural fabrics that actually has value. We're going to re-discuss what a good man on a mission brings to the table, which is that stability, the commitment, and the desire to build a family, which is something that a lot of the Western women forget. And this is going to be the complete guide for how those kinds of men can find a valuable lifestyle, not just a valuable partner, but a valuable lifestyle. First things first, though, we got to cover the money because nothing in our reality at this moment can operate long term without money. Yeah, you can go outside for a walk and that doesn't cost you anything, but eventually you're going to get hungry and you're going to have to eat, and that's going to cost somebody some money. You're going to get thirsty, you're going to need something to drink, that's going to cost somebody some money. You got to use the bathroom, and unless you're going to your house, which also costs money, some restaurants don't even allow you to use their restrooms if you don't buy anything. So you're going to have to spend money at some point, right? But more specifically, what we're going to be talking about is the power of your money. So the headlines state that, and this is going to be something that you've heard a lot, is that Turkey's cost of living is about 40 to 45% lower than in the United States. So $3,000 a month in the United States is roughly $1,700 a month in Turkey. But that doesn't even do this country justice. Because when you drill down into the details, the rent, the food, the transportation, you'll start to see the real scale of opportunity. The secret sauce here is a concept called geo arbitrage. And it's simple, but it can change your life. What you doing? You trying to get on the show too? I think he's gonna get on the show. You want to get on the show too? Get up here on the show. Get up here on the show. He's, see that he getting on the show. He gonna squeeze. He gonna squeeze. He gonna wiggle in here. You gonna wiggle in here. Come on, get up here. Now this. He said it. You will come on now. You up here. Pay attention. You will learn how to earn in a strong currency. Things like the US dollar or the euro, and you'll find yourself spending in weak cultures using that strong currency, like in the Turkey and Liara country. So as of 2026, the exchange rate is floating around 34 to 35 liar to one US dollar. Oh, that's why he messing with us. His leg is bothering him. It's cold as hell out here. We're gonna have to get you some icy hot tomorrow. The exchange rate is gonna be your superpower because with 34 to 35 liara to one US dollar, $100 is 350 liara. So while the average local net salary in Turkey is only $700 a month, a modest remote income of say $2,000 a month plus uh, whatever else you bring puts you in a totally different economic league, and that's a $2,000 a month salary. Now, I have come to find that a lot of countries, and we're going to be talking about this later on in the show, a lot of countries that have the digital nomad visa typically expects you to have 2,500 to $5,500 a month of income to get that digital nomad visa, upward of 75,000 a year. And I mean, I haven't covered the expectations of a family income because I'm talking about a person going by themselves, but a joint income from a family like a husband and a wife, if they're individually going to be expecting you guys to kind of do a certain quantity of money. We haven't covered the ins and outs of those, but just from person to person, if you're required $3,000 to $5,000 a month of income in order to get a extended stay visa, you understand that $700 a month giving you modest, meaning the top half of lower class, bottom half of middle class. An extra $1,300 a month puts you on the top half of middle class, bottom half of luxurious upper class, right? That's a whole different league. If you're coming from America, where you're in the projects, when you're in the hood, where you're in ghetto fabulous, loud bass, no exhaust, trash all over the place, cop cars every 30 minutes, helicopters every night for $2,000 a month, and then you go to gated communities, a penthouse suite, pools, housekeepers, maids, chauffeurs, everything delivered. That's a completely different lifestyle switch for the same quantity of money. I'm trying to tell y'all. So you're not just getting by just by going to a different country such as Turkey. You are thriving. Turkey's a huge country, and your dollar will stretch differently depending on where you decide to set up shop. So let's break down the real world costs for 2026 in some of the main cities, because we already understand that if you go to the rural cities, you will find yourself in cheaper locations. But in the inner cities and sometimes tourist areas, while it might be more expensive than the out of the way areas, still 40 to 45% cheaper than the United States. So first, let's talk about one of the titans, Istanbul. They're starting to become widely known in Netflix with all of the movies that they've been putting out with the international movies. This is the economic and cultural heart of Turkey, a massive city of about 16 million people, which is about the size of Florida, give or take a few million people. The energy is going to be insane here. The opportunities are going to be huge, but it's going to come with a higher price tag than the $700 a month median average. A single person should budget somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 a month for a comfortable standard of living in that particular environment. A family of four is looking at a monthly cost of around $2,500 altogether for two parents and two kids, or one parent and three kids, right? The biggest factor, of course, is going to be the rent. Oh, it always is. Usually around 60% of what we got to spend to be stable is rent. One bedroom apartment in a city center will run you around $570 a month. You can't really find that in America. Move to a neighborhood outside the core, and that one bedroom apartment drops to a more manageable $400 a month. A three-bedroom apartment, which is normally what we're seeing ourselves looking for in America, two people getting a three-bedroom apartment so that we have an extra guest bedroom kind of thing. In the city, that's going to be closer to $1,000. Most of us can't find a three-bedroom apartment for $1,000. But outside the city, that three-bedroom apartment is closer to $665. We can't find a three-bedroom apartment in America for $600 unless it's a mortgage. That we're talking about rent. Ain't anybody renting that. Usually 1,500 to 2,500 a month for a three bedroom. Utilities like electricity, water, and internet add another 80 to $85. A monthly pass for city's excellent public transportation costs between 35 and $44. So can you live in Istanbul on $1,500 a month? Yeah, it'd be a tight budget if you tried to do it with $1,500 a month. You'd be living outside the city center, cooking most of your meals, and watching your budget. But if you had $2,000 a month, you'd kind of be swinging it, right? Istanbul is best for those individuals that are earning closer to $2,000 a month or more, or guys who are lesser focused on the business networking the city offers. If you're lesser focused on the standard of living and you're more focused on making money, you might swing around here just for the opportunity to get paid. So look at a more balanced option where your money really starts to perform. Think about cities like Izmar or Ankara and Antalya. These are major cities that offer a fantastic quality of life without the financial squeeze of Istanbul. Ankara, the nation's capital, is a single person's dream where you can live very comfortably on $700 to $1,000 a month. It's a city of government workers and students, so it is less chaotic than Istanbul itself and has more relaxed vibes. You can find a one bedroom apartment here in a good area of around 400 to $500. Then you have the coastal gems, Izmar and Antalya, which are huge magnets for expats, which are uh, foreign nationals. And this is going to be for a good reason. In Izmar, a beautiful city on the Aegean coast, a single person's budget is around $700 to $930 a month. This is the budget, not the rent. One bedroom in the city center is about $450 or maybe $350 outside of the city center. So if you out there with 3 grand a month, you balling out of control. Utilities are about $85 and the monthly transportation pass there is about $20. Antalya, the getaway to the Mediterranean, has a very similar number, including budgets of $700 to $970 a month. Realistic for one person. So two people on 2 grand, not hard to do. A central one bedroom is about 480. Utilities are around 81. So pause for a minute. Let this sink in real quick. On an income of just about $1,500 or anything less than $2,000, an income that would have barely had you scraping by in most remote cities, especially the major cities in America. You could be living in the center of Ismar or Antalya, and after paying for your rent 480 and your utilities of 85 and your bus pass, you still have really close to $930 left over to spend on other stuff. That's incredibly cheap. Then when you throw in your capabilities to get, fresh foods and entertainment, eat out, most importantly, your ability to save and invest, that is what the financial freedom is going to look like. That is the leverage, the opportunity cost that I talk to you guys about on a daily, weekly, nightly, monthly scenario. But what if you want to push it even further? What if the goal is to save as much as possible to pour it into a business? For that, you look inland. Take a city like um, Gaziantep, a food capital near the Syrian border. Here the cost of living here is going to drop off the cliff significantly because a single person can live a great life for $500 to $700 a month total. Rent for a one bedroom can be as low as $200 a month in the city center or $150 outside the city. A family of four can live here for between $1,200 and $1,500 a month. The same is true for a dozen of other small, non touristy cities, because in these places, an income of $1,200 a month makes you very, very comfortable. Now, of course, we have to talk about the elephant in the room: inflation. Turkey has been battling high inflation for years. Sounds scary. And for someone earning in Turkish liras, it is. But if you are earning in dollars, it's a completely different story. So your US dollars not going to be hurting by this. Your income automatically adjusts upward in lira terms every single day, while inflation means prices for goods will go up. Your stronger purchasing power from the exchange rate mostly and often completely cancels out the inflation. You need a budget for it? A smart guy will add a 10 to 20% buffer to its monthly budget just to absorb price hikes without stress. Oh, you're going out there with $2,000. You might want to go out there with 2,500. But if you went out there with $3,000 or $4,000 a month, you would far exceed the spread. While the risk is real, it is manageable. And it is the very reason that this opportunity exists, which is why I give you guys all of these different shows about how to turn yourself into a digital nomad instead of working in a brick and mortar business for somebody that you don't like so that you can make enough, barely make enough money to pay your bills. You could be working off of your computer and then make that same money, if not more money, and just do it from a different country. And a digital nomad visa requires you to wire money to the country you're going to live in from a country that you're not living in, where the money that you're making is not coming from the country that you're living in. That's where digital nomads coming from. Then you got the work visa where you're working for the country, the company that's in the country that you're living in. But a digital nomad visa is that your income is from out of the country that you're currently living in. So any task that you can do, any source of income that you can build right now while you're living from paycheck to paycheck that you can make off of your computer. Once you start making four, five, $7,000 a month, you can relocate and keep doing that exact same online job from anywhere in the world. But that $5,000 of US dollars is going to go way further in a country that needs less than 2,000 to survive. So let's put it all together real quick. And we're not even halfway through. Single man earning about $1,800 a month remotely moves to Antalya. He gets a nice one bedroom just outside the center city, about 350 bucks. Utilities around $81. Monthly transportation is about 12. Groceries that he eats fresh. Local foods cost him about 200 more dollars. His required private health insurance, because you're gonna need that for you're gonna need international health insurance for any long term stay in any other country. And that's gonna be about $50 a month. His total fixed costs are roughly around 900 $693. So $693 is the most that he's going to pay for basic needs. That's going to leave him with over $1,100 of discretionary income to party like a rock star and drop it like it's hot. Every single month, he can use this to travel to the countryside or save up for a down payment on buying an apartment, buying a house or a condo, or fund a new startup business. In the West, this same income would just barely be surviving while piggybacking off of food stamps and Social Security disability and VA benefits, WIC, TANF programs, and all this other stuff. In Turkey, you'd be able to build with $1,800 a month. and $1,800 a month. If that's a biweekly scenario, you're looking at about $900 a paycheck, which is like $450 a week income. So for those of y'all that's making between 500 a week paycheck, between 500 and 700 a week paychecks, Turkey could take your standard living and give you a big dog status. A low cost of living is just one piece of the puzzle, though. It buys you breathing room and it also gives you more time. It helps you build for your retirement because 20 years in a country where you don't need that extra $1,500 a month and you're not wasting that extra $1,500 a month, you could find yourself building the type of brokerage account that pays for your standard of living so that you can quit working and actually retire there or retire somewhere else. However, real prosperity comes from building assets and generating your own income. And this is going to be the second pillar of the turkey trifecta. And frankly, it is where the opportunity becomes shocking for a man with some ambition and a little bit of capital. The West has made it incredibly difficult to start a small business. In many ways, Turkey is tearing down those barriers for foreigners. Your biggest advantage is that Turkey's legal system is extremely pro investment. You, as a foreigner, can have 100% ownership of your company. I'm going to say that again. You do not need a local partner the way you would in some of the other countries. Like if you wanted to start up a real estate business in the Philippines, a local would have to have 60% ownership of the company. So it would be beneficial for you if you were going to start up a real estate investment company in the Philippines that you would do it with your wife or your husband. Why? Because if the family business is real estate and the family is benefiting from the real estate, and you're going to be dating somebody or marrying somebody that's going to stay with you 15 to 20 years, make the business successful, they're not going to go anywhere as far as the business is concerned. Even if y'all get a divorce, they're not going to go anywhere as far as the business is concerned, right? So, in the situations where you don't need a local partner to run your business, you don't have to give away any portion of your hard work just for privileges of doing business in that country. This is going to be a game changer that many other low cost countries like the Philippines just don't offer. So, the best business structure for most people that have the ability to run their own stuff is going to be a limited liability company or LLC. The cost to set one of these up is, by Western standards, almost laughable. As of 2026, the minimum share capital that you need is just 50,000 Turkish lira. At today's exchange rate, that's roughly 1,400 US dollars. The total setup cost with notary fees and legal help will probably be between $1,000 and $2,000 complete. Think about that for a little bit. For less than the price of a beat up used car, you can have a legal 100% foreign owned company in a country of 85 million people. And this is the vehicle for everything else that you're going to be doing. You can also, at any point in time, put in a little extra paperwork to transition that LLC into a C corporation. You can also have that LLC sell the shares of your LLC to the C corporation that you establish, where your C corporation runs your LLC. Your LLC has direct access to the customer base, and your C corporation holds control over the assets. So you can have real estate owned by the C corporation and then leased out to the tenants through the LLC, where any disputes of possession of premises would be between the LLC and the tenant, not the property owner. Where the property owner can mortgage out properties, flip money, expand money, and acquire more rental properties, and then contract that to the LLC to rent those properties out for income. And then property maintenance can be provided to the C corporation from the LLC as payment for usage of the properties. You can work all of this stuff out into your budgets. Because while it might cost you $10,000 to set something up in America, if it costs you $2,000 to set up an LLC, it could cost you $5,000 to set up a complex umbrella company with an LLC in there. So once you got your LLC, what do you think you're going to do with that? Let's look at the best options for guys starting with low capital. Like we said, real estate. When people hear real estate investments, they think $1 million properties. Forget all that. In Turkey, you can get in for far more smaller amounts. This is totally possible to find apartments in good areas for well under $100,000. This opens up two main strategies. The first is rental income from tourism. Turkey is a tourist superpower, pulling in over 50 million visitors a year. In coastal hotspots like Alania, Antalya, or the incredible landscapes of uh, Cappadocia, you can buy a modest apartment and turn it into an Airbnb or a seasonal rental property, and the returns can be significant, with many investors seeing an annual yield of between 5 and 10%. So imagine buying an $80,000 apartment in Alania and a 7% yield is 5,600 a year or about $466 a month in passive income. I mean, of course, there's going to be some risks. The layers of volatility can affect your assets value in dollar terms, and you have to factor in potential vacancies and changing local regulations, but the cash flow potential is highly real. The second real estate play is investing for growth. Cities like Bursa, an industrial hub near Istanbul, growing very fast. Buying properties here is less about tourist rentals and more about long term appreciation as the city expands. It's a slower, more patient game. And the second, more major path is starting a micro business, especially one that serves the massive tourist industry. If you ever get into a startup that is the picks and shovels of another, how you doing, Lewis? Special shout out to Lewis. If you create a startup that is the picks and shovels of a actual need, you don't have to worry about the market. Almost like Nvidia in tech, they're making semiconductor chips that all tech companies need. Doesn't matter which company gets contracts with the government. What matters is that those contracted tech companies need the semiconductor chip. I appreciate you, bro, providing a lot of information. So much learning going on today. So when you're getting into massive tourism industries, with a startup capital of under $5,000 in Turkey, you can launch something with serious revenue potential. We're talking about a business that's generating anywhere between $1,000 to over $100,000 a month. So, what do you think these businesses look like? They're not complicated. Think about a boutique tour company in Cappadocia, packaging hot air balloons and providing trips and guide hikes. Think about a small car rental service near the airports in Antalya or Izmar. I mean, you can start an e-commerce business using your LLC to buy high quality Turkish goods such as leather, carpets, ceramics, olive oil, and then sell them online to a global market. Thank you for all your information. I appreciate you being able to benefit from it. Thank you for keep coming back. Make sure that you hit that like button and hit those reaction buttons while you're here. Now, one example showed a leather e-commerce business doing $40,000 a month in revenue. The low cost of labor and materials combined with selling in dollars or euros creates an incredible profit margin. Other simple ideas include Airbnb management or even niche services like recycling or sourcing auto parts. The third and most flexible path is an online or remote business. This is going to be the ultimate geo arbitrage. You set up your home base in a low cost Turkish city, slashing your personal expenses, and you run a business service clients in the high cost West. The possibilities here are going to be endless. Consulting businesses like Stephen was talking about, digital marketing, coding, online touring, content creation, whatever it is that you're doing in a expensive Western culture, funding your low cost remote location will give you far more dollars to donuts. You earn dollars to put uh, into your pocket, but your expenses, which is rent, food, and utilities in Layar, extremely cheap. This is how you build a war chest of capital. The Turkish startup scene itself is booming. So, with the focus on fintech and software, this is going to show a vibrant ecosystem that you can plug directly into, almost completely user friendly. Finally, if you want more passive approaches, the Turkish stock market, the Borsa Istanbul is completely open to foreign investors. Once you get there, you can open a brokerage account and invest in Turkish blue chip companies in banking, energy, and manufacturing, letting you get a piece of the country's economic growth. How about a redemption center here in New York? Whew, I mean, you can create. You're saying redemption center. It's usually identified as a rehab center, rehabilitation center, and you can create a bunch of rehabilitation centers throughout America. And if they're generating the right kind of revenue, your passive income from that could actually benefit you in another country because the cost of living somewhere else, if you're getting 40,000 a year from as your pay from the business you have in New York, that $40,000 a year in a country that requires less than $24,000 a year, you have an extra $16,000 a year that you don't need. If you're saving that money and investing that money, fantastic. But if you're living life by the dollar, having an extra 16 or $17,000 a year that you don't need, you're able to live the life of luxury, limos, big houses, private schools for your kids. All of the things that most people would not be able to afford in the Western culture because you're building something that is paying you a large quantity of money from Western culture. You go to Eastern culture and live cheap. And that's one of the reasons why we cover all these topics all over the show. You say, no, it may be funny. The question I asked, no, you kind of hit the nail on the head today. Thank you for your advice. Oh, no problem. No problem. That was right in line with what we were talking about doing because creating your own businesses are things that can be done. If you're creating you said a redemption center can be a church, but a redemption center or rehabilitation facility could be something that you can build and people need the ability to reincorporate themselves after failure back into life. And a rehabilitation center or redemption center can be structured around taking felons and helping them find jobs, helping them find housing, stuff to that effect. Those facilities can get funding from the government. Um, but it is going to take some work. You can utilize those facilities to partner with other companies like a day labor so that you can provide them with workers for a referral fee. And then those workers get jobs. And then, you know what I mean? You can start charging them guys rent. And if you're controlling the properties that they're living in and getting funded off of networking them into a job and then getting paid off of them working for the other guy for dirt cheap, you can find yourself getting paid three ways by helping one person. And if you make a chain business around that, it can be a self-sustainable revolving income where you're getting paid to make sure that other people improve their lives. And that is a fantastic way to go because, like I said, if you're bringing back 40 or $50,000 a year as your cut of however big your establishment is in New York, California, whatever, then If you only need 24,000, if you need 20,000 a year in Turkey to survive, and you're making 40 or $50,000 a year, you're going to run out of stuff to buy. You're going to literally be trying to find ways to spend money because your $30,000 of extra money that you don't need is able to pay for your lifestyle and the lifestyle of five or seven other people right next to you. Some countries call them concentration camps. No, jail would be considered a concentration camp. A rehabilitation center would not be identified as a concentration camp because they're not making you focus on nothing. Well, is again, it's not going to be a rehabilitation camp. It's going to be jail. Completely different. But again, when you have that capability to live in a different country cheaper, if you want to waste money and become a sugar daddy, you can find yourself having three people cooking, cleaning, and satisfying all of your basic needs because you can cover the standard of living of three people at $20,000 a year per person. That's a waste of money. But I mean, if you're making 50 or $60,000 a year and you're able to live fully off of that money, that's something that you can do, especially when you're not looking on a return on your investments when you're being financially wasteful. But if you're trying to build yourself up to quit working, if you're trying to build yourself up to live off of that type of lifestyle, then you're probably going to put yourself in a position to get more money back off of your principal instead of wasting your principal and then hoping that you get another reoccurring income in from the company from overseas. He said, whatever, comrades. Well, it's like Cartman. See you guys. I'm going home. Now, how does a man on a modest income actually set up a business like this? Well, if you go back to our friend in Antalya with a $1,100 income, cash, $1,100 extra after everything is paid. Say a guy decides to put $300 a month into an investment portfolio. He puts up 40%, which is $120 into a global ETF to hedge the bets. He could put 30%, which is like $90, right, into a Turkish real estate fund to get exposure to the property market without buying a whole apartment. Then he might put 20%, which is another $60, into a few solid Turkish stocks. And then with the last 10%, which is another $30, he could start a tiny side hustle like a website promoting local tours for a commission. It's a slow, steady, and realistic way to build wealth, but it gives you consistency and it's giving you something to do because if your income is coming in from somewhere else where you don't need this money, but you're reinvesting this money where this money can generate more money for you, you will never run out of money. And to top it off, the Turkish government actually encourages this type of behavior. There are tons of incentives for small businesses like tax deductions, VAT exemptions, and even free land for certain projects. You ain't got to buy the land, you just got to build certain shit on it. And if you build certain shit on it and just so happen to put yourself a penthouse suite on that property too, you get to live the life of luxury at your job, at the company that you built from the ground up. People don't think about stuff like that. They are doing that in Asia where they have like the first floor is the business and the second floor is the residence. So if you were building a business in a business zone and then you built an apartment on top of it, the business is on the first floor, the apartment's on the second floor. The first floor business satisfies the requirement for there to be a business in that structure. And because the building code might allow for a multi-story structure, everything above the first floor that is the business that's required to be there can be an apartment complex. You see some apartment complexes. Lewis says, "I'll be here listening, bro. You got to every night of the week. We talk about stuff like this. You have certain apartment complexes in Asia where you have apartments throughout, convenience stores inside of the apartment complex, grocery stores, laundromats, everything that you need inside of the apartment complex. Some places might even have a school inside of the apartment complex, just built into the building. You ain't got to go nowhere, right? So when you're setting up these types of structures in special economic zones, as long as you build what is required to be built on the land, you can build whatever you want on top of that. You just got to meet the building codes. So if your business is focused on exports, like that e-commerce idea I told you about, you can operate from a free zone and enjoy the 100% exemptions from corporate taxes on your export earnings and build on it where you don't have to worry about paying for the property that you're building on. You got that. You might just have the property taxes. That's all you got to cover. This type of system is set up to help you win. You just have to take the first steps and go talk to your local embassy, find out the things that you need to accomplish this, make sure you're establishing the right kind of business to qualify for these exemptions. So ultimately, before you dig the first trench, you're communicating with the local government to find out what the special economic zones are, what they expect you to do with them, and then you're trying to create a blueprint for the type of business that would function there. And then you would go there and take advantage of all of the free stuff and start building shit from the ground up. And one of the other better parts about this is that as an American citizen, if you're going over there from America and you're spending money on a development scenario, I would say, this is what I would say, whatever your LLC or C corporation is in America, if it's an LLC, have you a C corporation attached to it some kind of way, and then have that C corporation be a foreign domestic in Turkey, and then use that as a tax deduction because international profits, international investment, international debt is tax deductible in the United States. So, and international profits, they have an exemption somewhere between $150,000 and $250,000 a year that is untaxed as U.S. capital. So if you're making $250,000 in the United States and you're making $250,000 in Turkey, they're going to tax you on $250,000 on the United States, not tax you on $250,000 you're making in Turkey, and give you a deduction on the $250,000 that you spent to build the property in Turkey. This is how rich people stay rich, right? It's a double win. Now, halfway through the show, I want to make sure that you guys know that if you haven't done so already, mash those reaction buttons. Make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button and then take the time to find the notification button because I know it's up there somewhere, whether you're watching us from the long form, 16 by 9, or if I just popped up on your shorts reel. We're here 7 nights a week, and we typically would have started at the top of the hour 2 hours ago. And we've been here for about an hour and a half. Now we've covered the numbers and we've covered the business strategy. Now we need to talk about the soul of the country. And this is going to be the third pillar. And for many men, it is the most important one, the culture. Low cost and business opportunities are fucking fantastic for everybody who wants to make more money with less effort. But you can find that almost anywhere in the world. You just got to know where to look. What makes Turkey unique is that it pairs this type of economy and this type of freedom with a social fabric that is deeply traditional, family oriented, and excessively conservative, something we have forgotten in Western culture. For a man who feels worn out by the social gains of the modern Western culture, Turkey can feel like a breath of fresh air. It's a place where the values that you hold aren't seen as old fashioned and misogynistic. Instead, it is observed as the foundation of a good life. Yes, Turkey is not monolith. Okay. The culture in a trendy Istanbul neighborhood is worlds away from a small town in Anatolia. But the overarching values are going to be clear and they are a sharp contrast to the West. The biggest difference that you'll see is in the dating, relationships, and family. In much of Turkey, especially outside of the most liberal city bubbles, dating isn't a casual hobby. It is a process with a clear goal to find a spouse. The hookup culture that's everywhere else in the West is largely absent here. Living together before marriage is a huge taboo in this country. And the idea of casual sex is unthinkable in more traditional areas. So, for people who are just going out there to smash, probably going to have a harder time doing that outside of that liberal bubble area. But those that are out there trying to find virtue, it's going to be easier to find than what it is in America. The dating process itself is going to be more serious. It often involves family introductions from the start. A man's reputation, his character, and his ability to provide are what matters most, not using him as a walking ATM. Her modesty, her family background are going to be key, something that we don't think about in Western culture. Our men are starting to demand it now, but the women don't think about that in Western culture. Gaining the approval of a woman's parents, especially her father, isn't just a polite gesture. It is a critical part of the process. An engagement is a huge family event that carries a powerful social expectation of marriage. What this means for you as a foreign man is the rules of the game are going to be totally different. You are judged by a different standard. A flashy lifestyle or a long history of casual dating aren't assets here. It can actually become liabilities. What's valued is stability, maturity, respect for family, and a clear desire to build a future. That's going to have to be shown in your determination to establish your roots in the country. This is going to be where a man on a modest budget with a stable income has a huge advantage because a guy earning $2,000 a month from a reliable remote job is seen as a much better prospect than someone with an unstable local job. Your stability is going to be your status. I'm going to say this again. Ladies, a $2,000 a month job from a remote location is seen as a much better prospect than an unstable local job. So y'all looking for these $100,000 a year men, y'all not gonna find them. These men gonna disappear on y'all. Your commitment is going to be your currency. Being a foreigner can add a bit of intrigue, but it does not give you a pass on these cultural expectations. If anything, you'll be expected to show your respect for them even more. This cultural framework is strongest in smaller cities and towns. So if your goal is to find a truly traditional wife who values family above all else, you're far more likely to find her in a city like Bursa or Kanya than in Istanbul. You can go to Istanbul, but that's probably going to be a little bit more of a liberal place. In the communities of Bursa and Kanya, the social expectations is to marry and start a family, and women are often raised with that as a primary goal in mind, which makes it a lot easier for you to present yourself as the prospect of that expectation. Western culture, women are taught to be OnlyFans girls and then retire out of OnlyFans girls and then find a good man. That's but good men aren't looking for retired OnlyFans girls. That's the problem. What we're looking for is the exact opposite of a retired OnlyFans girl, right? So once you got into that and you started getting a body count over 10, it's like to the masses, right? 30 years old and body count of 20, it's a crashed car. Women don't like that, but it's the truth. That's one of the reasons why Western women do not feel comfortable with talking about their body count the same way Western women don't feel comfortable about talking about their age. That's because when these numbers get too high, you know that you're no longer valuable. So you will deflect from telling the truth about this. But men don't have a problem with talking about how old they are because their age is their value. Men who have money don't talk about their money, but they don't have a problem with admitting that they have enough money. Men that don't have enough money will deflect from talking about their money, which is one of the reasons why women ask him that. How much do you make? Because if you're willing to admit it, then it must be enough. If you're not willing to admit it, they're going to assume that you can't afford to pay for yourself. So how am I going to pay for you too? And I don't blame them for thinking that way because if you're looking for financial stability, you got to make sure that this guy's got money before you go on the first date. But if you're looking for long term companionship, the financial stability is irrelevant. He just has to have ambition and drive and motivation and willing to put in the effort. So even if he doesn't have the money, if he has all those other things, you can help him make the money. But if the money is the defining make or break factor, all of the other qualities in him don't matter. So he can have the money and be worthless to you, but you'll accept him anyway because he's got the money. That leads you to be in the kind of relationship where you're not satisfied because everything else is not met because the money is met. But if everything else is met and the money's not met, you're still not satisfied. Two broke people, $30,000 a year can pull their money together and make themselves $1 million people. I'm telling you right now that in Istanbul, less than 20,000 a year, you can live a middle class lifestyle. So if one of you is making $45,000 a year, two of you making $40,000 a year can move to Istanbul with an $80,000 a year combined income, and y'all can live lovely on 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 a year with chauffeurs and housekeepers and nannies, and y'all can live big dog lifestyle where that $80,000 a year income would barely cover the $70,000 comfortable standard of living in the United States in some of the cheaper areas. Because when you start talking about $80,000 a year between two people in California, Seattle, Los Angeles, that $80,000 ain't gonna get you past the bus stop. You start talking about that in the Bronx in New York, and that $80,000 ain't gonna get you to the gas station. You know what I mean? So I understand what they're thinking about, but if y'all turn that to digital nomad money, y'all can go to a country that's cheaper than this one, and y'all low class income in America could be a high class income in another country. That's why women say, "Oh, they go into another they broke." No, opportunity cost. That's what it is. If you don't change your job, but you change your residence, you go from paying the rent late because you can't afford it in a place where the rent is too high to paying the rent early because the rent is low enough for you to afford it. If you go from paying rent to paying a mortgage, instead of paying $3,000 a month for the rent, you might pay $1,500 a month for the mortgage. Instead of renting an apartment, you're buying a house. We're going to be talking about some of those uh, in upcoming shows. So now that you have the approach with the right mindset, you can be very successful. And this isn't going to be about shopping for a wife here. It's going to be about understanding and respecting the culture where family is the center of everything and aligning yourself with those values. It takes patience. It's going to take willingness to learn the social rules, just like Nicole said, and a genuine desire for the kind of long term partnership that this culture is built on. It means understanding that when you marry a Turkish woman, you're not just marrying her, you're building a relationship with her entire family. So, for a man who values that deep sense of community, this isn't a burden. This is going to be a blessing. Antisocial people, this might be problematic for you. You might just want her and fuck the rest of them. Not going to work in this country. This cultural bedrock provides a sense of order, meaning, and purpose that many men feel is missing in the Western culture. Also, when you guys have maritable disputes, since the culture is about bringing the family together and keeping the family together, marital disputes could have her friends and family encouraging her to fix the marriage instead of allowing it to fall apart the way the Western woman discourage commitment, right? This is going to offer a clear path. Work hard, be a man of good character, show respect, find a good woman, build a family, and be the respected head of the household that we were taught to be 40, 50 years, 70 years ago. In Turkey, that path isn't a fantasy from the 1950s. It's a lived reality for millions right now in 2026. And it is open for foreign men who are willing to walk into it with integrity. Now, keep in mind, a lot of countries do still have um, racial discrepancies. No country doesn't. You do have to take into consideration when you're going to certain countries, especially if you have a really good tan, to be able to determine if your really good tan might cause your child to have racial discrepancies, even if you as an adult don't experience that. Because kids are mean, and especially if you're different. So if you're going to another culture and you understand that there is some underlining biases that might negatively impact the child's upbringing, you might want to consider the implications of that going in. Even it doesn't have to discourage you from going; it just gives you the ability to prepare for that. Teach your child about differences. Teach your child about how to handle other people who weren't taught differences, and then uh, uh, make sure that you have that understanding. Those of us who know what it's like, it's way worse in America. We've covered the whys. Now for the hows. Moving to another country can seem like a bureaucratic nightmare, but in Turkey, the process is surprisingly straightforward if you're prepared. Your most important tool is the resident permit. For most guys watching this, the journey will start with a short term tourist residence permit. This is for the foreigners who want to stay longer than 90 days, and the tourist visa is going to give you that. It usually grants you 1 year and it is renewable. This is how you get your foot in the door. Way easier than what they're doing with the 6 months in South Korea. To apply, you're going to need a stack of documents: your passport, photos, proof of health insurance for your stay. The insurance must start before you go and continue long after you leave. Proof of an address, which means a notarized rental contract with the person that you're going to be living under when you get there. And most importantly, proof that you can support yourself financially. Reoccurring income, really large quantity of accessible savings, something. Brokerage account, trust issue, something. And the last point is going to be key for anyone with a remote income. The government is going to want to see that you won't be a drain on their system. So you have to show that you have sufficient and sustainable funds. And while there is a minimum income requirement tied to local minimum wage, you want to show far more than that. So a bank statement with a healthy balance and a proof of your ongoing remote income, like contracts or invoices, makes your application rock solid. Remember, the average local salary is $700. But if you can prove that you're bringing in two or three times more than that, which is like $2,100, $2,500 from abroad every month, you look like a very attractive applicant. Another strong path to residency is going to be tied directly to real estate. While the rules and minimum investment amounts have been going up, owning property in Turkey makes your case for residency much stronger. It shows that you're committed to the country. It doesn't guarantee a permit, but it's a huge factor in your favor because it proves that you are a stakeholder, not just a tourist. If you're coming in on a tourist visa and then you establish rental properties, establish certain things that are accessible to tourists, use that for your long-term visa applications, your residency applications. When you apply, remember we said certain countries and certain areas around Asia allows you to fly around for nothing. You can leave while your application is pending and come back just by going to another country for a few weeks to a couple of months and come back and finish what you started while maintaining communication with that culture. Because you don't have to do anything in person mandatorily 100% of the time. While you're probably going to have to show up in person to get the final documentation, and if you have to show up in person to start it up, that's an if. A lot of the stuff you can set it up online. You can communicate via text messages and emails and phone calls and go through the entire process while on the go. And then once you get the final declaration that you're good to go, you can come back into the country with whatever paperwork that you had accessible to you and then make that work. Down the line, other options can open up, like a family residence permit if you married a Turkish citizen, or a work permit if your business grows and you formally employ yourself in the company. So you build something, it's making money. You sign yourself on as a worker in the company. Now you're generating a revenue from inside of Turkey, plus whatever you got coming in from America. You have other ways to get in there. But the initial play is simple: enter on a tourist visa, rent out a place, get you some health insurance, apply for a 1 year tourist permit using your foreign income as proof of funds. Now, for the final critical decision: where to live. Your choice of cities will define your entire experience. So let's boil it down. If your priority is action, networking, and being at the center of the business world, and your budget is at least 1,500 to 2,000 a month, then Istanbul is your choice. The costs are going to be higher and the pace is relentless, but the potential is unmatched. Now, if your priority is balance, high quality life on a more modest budget with a beautiful coastal setting and a mix of modern and traditional, then you should look in places like Ismar or Antalya. A budget of $1,500 a month here gives you a very comfortable life with a sea, sun, and vibrant city atmosphere. It's the ideal choice for a lot of retirees. If your top priority is to maximize your savings and investment rates, living in a quieter, more traditional life, and make your dollars stretch as far as they possibly can, then consider a smaller island, a place like Gaziantep, Bursa, or dozens of other provincial capitals that will let you live extremely well on $1,200 a month or even less. This is the path for the man who is lesser focused on entertainment and laser focused on building capital while wanting the most authentic cultural experience at the same time. The path is going to be clear. The options are there. The choices depends on your goals, your budgets, and the life that you actually want to build. So there it is, the trifecta of Turkey: the cost of living that gives you the financial breathing room, business environment that welcomes foreign ambition, and the cultural foundation with values for family and tradition that we long for and miss in Western culture. This isn't a pipe dream. It's a viable data backed plan for any man willing to think outside the box and take calculated actions. The path that is closing for men on modest incomes in the West is still wide open in Turkey. It's a path to not just survive, but to prosper, to not just accumulate wealth, but to build a life of meaning. You're not working from paycheck to paycheck, work till we die, right? You're building something. And ideally, you're building something that is legacy driven. You want to build something that can be automated and then passed down to the next generation where he or she can continue the family business. You can be first generation wealth. I know you don't have that much of your adult life to enjoy it, but you can be first generation wealth. You just have to make the decision to build that over the next 20 years. Now, this has been the blueprint, but a blueprint is useless until you take the first step. So I want you guys to do something right now. Tiptoe into the comment section, write down two things: your target monthly budget in US dollars and your ideal lifestyle. Are you a city hustle guy, quiet traditional town man, or do you want that coastal living balance? And Nicole, you're here. Nicole, and potentially Claudia, you ladies want to decide like what kind of life do you want to have? Jot that down. I'm going to be going through all the comments and replying to as many as I can to give you guys a personalized starting point based on the data that we've been talking about today. And a lot of these things are going to be thrown into our memberships for those individuals that are serious about improving themselves. And if you are serious about this, you want to make sure that after you've liked and subscribed, you've taken a look at the membership. So take a look at subscribing and also hit that reaction button. In some of our upcoming shows, we're going to be doing a deep dive into the LLC formation process so that you know exactly how you're going to create the legal businesses in other countries because we have talked about setting up LLCs, C corporations, and private trusts in the United States. We've also talked about other countries around the world that it's beneficial to do a non residential trust, especially in countries that do not charge taxation on those trusts, which is beneficial for you if you're trying to get non taxed income, right? Um, this will help you know exactly how to create your own business in some of the other countries, especially Turkey, for costs of less than $2,000. So don't let your future be defined by the limits of the country that you were born in. Don't let your future be defined by the limits of the city in the state that you're living in. There are still frontiers for ambitious men and even ambitious women. And Turkey is one of them. The opportunity is here. The time is now in a generation, in a political period where so much change is happening. Now is the time for you to get started. Everything is up in the air. What used to be the standard norm is now changing. Everything from capping credit card interest rates to 10%, uh, potentially having 50-year mortgages, reducing interest rates, all of the things that are happening in life, fixed FICO scores, delayed restrictions on corporate funding of housing, promotion of single family homes for the use of single families. So many things are changing. Trust accounts to help your kids be able to afford a house when they're 18. Where the first thing they do, instead of giving you two middle fingers and going to live in a closet in their friend's basement, they can actually work with you to go and buy their own house. So it's not just, oh, my house, my rules, you can get out. It's, hold on, let me help you put your down payment on your house so that you can move into your own house because you can, not because you're defying my authority, which actually gives you a different relationship with your kids. It actually gives you a different relationship with your family members. So many things are changing right now that we need to take advantage of this. It is here for the benefit of those who want it, who need it, who can use it. If you miss the opportunities, you will forever be disappointed in yourself. While you will take it out on others, you will be forever disappointed in yourself because you missed the opportunity to benefit from all of the changes. We can always wish that we had invested in Macintosh before it got big. We can always wish that we had invested in Facebook before it got big. We could always wish that we had invested in bottled water before it got big. But with the changes that are happening right now, if you don't invest in it before it gets big, I told y'all to invest in Oracle before it closed on TikTok. I told y'all to invest in Shell, Chevron, and Exxon before Venezuela started turning out profits, and now the war is turning out more profits. If y'all don't get in beforehand, the opportunity cost, you're gonna miss it. To marry a Turkish woman, would you have to become a Muslim? I mean, that's a good, that's an interesting concept. Um, if they're experiencing a Muslim culture in the family that you're dating the girl in, and they are strict about them not dating a non-Muslim person. Under that dynamic, you would likely have to at least accept her Muslim practices, which also means that bacon and pork chops might not be part of dinner. However, if you have a little bit of a mix of traditional culture with a little bit of modernism, where you are not mandatorily required to have a religion, much less a Muslim religion, in order for you to be married to the girl, but you are not to deny her her ability to practice whatever religion she so chooses, then you can find yourself in a position where the religious choice does not matter. But if you're going out there recognizing that Muslim is the strongest religion in that culture, if Muslim religion does not allow for non-Muslim marriages, because you have Jews and Gentiles marrying one another, you have Protestants marrying Catholics on a regular basis, and the dynamic is the family's expectations. Are they willing to accept you knowing that you come from America and America doesn't promote Muslim religion as much as it promotes Catholic and Christian religion? Just saying I'm an American would indicate likely not Muslim, right? So if that is an issue, then you need to reconsider. But if you're going there on a tourist visa, 90-day tourist visa, before you put in the effort to extend your stay for another year, you should be able to find out if this culture prefers Muslims or if this culture is accepted to non Muslims. They're allegedly open to foreigners. Not all foreigners practice Muslim religion, but it is your responsibility to find out before you spend unnecessary money on a failed venture. But even if you went there just for the sake of starting up a business and making some money, you can go there, start up a business and make some money, and then fly to other areas in Asia and expand on the business. And if you found a woman that just so happened to be Muslim, woot. But if you don't, you can just go to another country. Asia's pretty big. Asia's really, really big. They're out of 4 billion people. There should be at least one living person for every other living person on the face of the earth. It just requires you to look in the right place. And it is not exclusively the one waiting for you. It is just beneficially the one that you can mesh with. So you have to find out what your goals and your ambitions are for yourself so that you can set your own standards. And then, like you asked, find out from them what their goals and their standards are. Then you decide if you are willing to mesh with their goals and their standards, and then find out if they're willing to mesh with your goals and your standards. Before you start wasting money on investing on this other person, you need to be sure that you're willing to put up with their bullshit, and you need to be sure that they're willing to put up with your bullshit. If y'all can agree to that, then we can see where this is going. If we can't agree with that, If she's got some non-negotiable expectations, like my 5'6" ass got to be 6'1", well, let me go ahead and keep walking because I am not about to knock out my shins and put stilts in so that I can gain an extra 8 inches so that I can meet your expectations. You understand? If I had to be 30 shades lighter, I am not about to develop vitiligo so that you can accept me, right? So when we recognize what their expectations are, our goal is to find out first, does this person meet my expectations? And if they do, am I willing to meet theirs? Their responsibility is to find out, do they meet my expectations? And if they do I meet theirs? In that exact same order. Why is that? Because if a woman is looking for financial security and a man is able to provide that financial security, that is not the deal breaker. The deal breaker is if the woman is willing to earn her keep to get that financial security, and is the request of the man reasonable or unreasonable? That's the only deal breaker. Because if you got some men that are on those red pill, blue pill, black pill podcasts, it's like, oh, she must bow to me. And some women are like, no, I'm not going to bow to you, and that's a deal breaker. You got some women like we seen just the other day. A woman was on her wedding day refusing to say her wedding vows, talking about something. I'm not obeying nothing. You just got a divorce before you got married. Like, you should have been able to have that discussion with him in front of the pastor before he paid for the venue so that you knew that, because you know that saying what you're saying before the I do is your dedication to him. And if you're not willing to say that in the church under the eyes of the Lord, then why is you even engaged? You should have known from the first date that I don't obey no man, and I'm not going to marry a man that expects me to even admit that I'll obey a man. These are the dynamics that you have to find out from the first date. So their entire relationship is over. She has embarrassed herself and she has embarrassed her fiance because he's not going to marry her if he's smart in front of their entire family, their entire community, because they did not find out her values versus his values before they got to the wedding. So, great question, FX Trader. You need to know what you're getting yourself into, but you need to find out more stuff before the first date than what's your name, what would you like for me to spend my money on, and how much do I have to pay? You need to start finding out, is she worth it first? And will she cooperate second before you start opening your wallet? And along the way, if she ain't worth it, don't settle for the sex. She ain't worth it. Walk it off and go on to Turkey where no sex before marriage kind of situation, no living together before marriage kind of situation. You're gonna pay more attention to, is she worth it, because you ain't getting no gratification from this person until after you say I do. So you paying attention to, is this good wife material, because I can't get laid until I get married. Which ironically increases the value of the women in Turkey, because the body count of the women are going to be dependent on how many times they got divorced, more often than not. So if she got two divorces, she should have a body count of two, three at the most. Well, a woman in America, first marriage, 800 body count that she doesn't want to talk about. You got to understand, there's a difference in culture. There's a difference in behavior patterns. There's a difference in expectations. So what we have to do is we have to figure out where we want to fit in it and then stand on those expectations. Now, with that being said, I'm going to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And, fellas, I give y'all this information to help y'all become higher value men, because if you find out what in your life you can control that you don't like, and then put forth the effort to change that, you can then navigate around the things that you do not like. Now, ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value women. All you have to do is figure out what your 20-year plan needs to be. Reverse engineer that, figure out where you need to start, and start putting yourself towards accomplishing those goals. Keep your eyes and ears open. Don't just reject every man that talks to you, and find out if this man's dreams ambitions, character, passions, drive, motivation, or whatever meshes with your 20-year goals. And if it does, if it blends with your 20-year goals, that is the person that you can stick with, where two people can achieve these goals faster than one. I've already given you guys plenty of information on how two low income individuals can come together and be millionaires in less than 10 years. You just have to be financially responsible and work together. So there's no reason why you're looking for the finished product when you can build the finished relationship with the right ambition, the right goals, and the right dreams, the right motivation, the right actions, the right willpower. A blueprint is just a blueprint. It's just an idea. In reality, you have to put it to action. So that's what I want you guys to do. I want you to take the knowledge that I give you, and I want you to do your extra research and then put it to action. Now, with that being said, we've got a lot of stuff coming up for the rest of the weekend. You're going to start seeing more shows popping up for next week and the week after over the next couple of days. So make sure that you go through the channel on YouTube and you hit those notification buttons on all the shows that you want to be a part of. And then make sure that you try to swing through, because after I start editing a lot of these shows, the first 15, 20 minutes worth of heads up are going to be missing off of the show. The largest majority of the show is still going to be there, but the first half is going to be gone. So the first 15, 20 minutes of the show is going to disappear. It's not relevant anymore anyway, because I mean, it was like late breaking news bulletin kind of thing. So by the time I edit it, it's old news. Uh, but the entire show is archived on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching us on Twitch and Twitter and you want to go back and look at some of the stuff that you missed, by all means, go to YouTube and do that. And then if you're watching us from TikTok and you want to see everything that's not on TikTok, you come to YouTube and you come and see that. This is one of the only podcasts that is designed to help you improve yourself and stretch this knowledge across 5 or 6 different platforms at the same time. Highly interactive live podcast. You're not going to find another one like this on YouTube. You're not going to find another one like this on any other channel. Everybody else is complaining about gender inequalities. So if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to grow, if you're willing to improve yourself so that you can find yourself in 20 years more satisfied than what you are now with the kind of life that you have and the income that you have to support it, stick with me, because we're going to get there. That's all I have for you guys for tonight. Thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys
higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.